Introduction to Lost Garden. I have a secret. The last secret. Zhong Yi, write this sentence on the front page of his diary. At first, Zhong Yi was just catching an early train, but unexpectedly caught the old special train. Watching the train pass through a void and slowly stop at a dilapidated station, the sound of electronic music echoing inside the carriage. Dingdong, terminal station. The third old place has arrived, please passengers get off in an orderly manner. Zhong Yi, who walked off the platform, looked at the red sun hanging high above the sky with a bewildered expression, and the devastation all over her eyes. A question couldn't help but flash in my mind: what is this place? This is the place of zero in the world, the resting place of all things, and the third closest old place to the present world. A lost place beyond the present world, this is the world of extraordinary beings, pure source material, without any trace of ownership, and magical secrets fished out from the sea of secret silver, all of which impact the beloved Three Views. As a mortal, can he return to this world again? The land of lost order. You are listening at novel full.audio. On the summit of Mount Volaics, the highest mountain in the world, stargazers silently watched the world collapse. The ice peak shattered and fell into the sea, causing huge waves that slowly extended to the end of the world, melting the towering landmarks one by one. The last ray of light in the sky has also been eroded away, and the eye of Vargas can no longer capture the traces of the source of corruption and the destructive factor. The sky is about to tilt, and the Mandelbrot fractal can no longer resist the attacks of the past, turning into a scattered glow. The little glow returned to heaven and earth, and the stargazer's palm brushed it, trying to prevent its annihilation, but unable to do so. The last blockade in this world has finally been broken. At the end of the tide, the old army slowly advanced, and the old ruler sat on the sky, overlooking the collapse of the present world. The fallen wait for a long time, shouting loudly for the greatness of the past and mocking the fruits of the present. Alas, missing. Chapter 1. Old Special Trains. You are listening at novel full.audio. At the Half Moon Point subway station in the province of North Carolina, pedestrians hurriedly rushed towards the station. Quick, fast, fast. Zhong Yi took out his phone and glanced at it. The train was about to depart in 5 minutes. He quickly bit the steamed bun with a cup of soybean milk in his hand and hurriedly scanned the subway card. Finally caught up. As he sat in his seat, Zhong Yi couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. The house he rented was far from his workplace, and he would always catch the morning train to work. If he didn't run faster, Zhou Pippi would definitely deduct his salary. Zhong Yi took a sip of soybean milk. He just ran too fast and choked on it. He felt the carriage was a little lonely. Usually, even the morning special train would not be so quiet. He looked up and saw only a few or two passengers sitting in their seats, closed their eyes and focused. Seemingly noticing his favored gaze, the man in black opened his eyes and looked at him, but did not find any bright spots. He then closed his eyes again to rest and meditate. Zhong Yi was completely oblivious to the man's gaze, and his attention was drawn to his own phone. He wanted to check the time, but found that the phone couldn't turn on and the screen couldn't light up. This made him very angry. How to get off the car and scan the bike when his phone was broken? As he repeatedly operated his phone to make it light up again, the train started and moved forward rapidly, disappearing into a crack. Shortly after its disappearance, a morning train stopped by the lunar platform, crowded with office workers and student parties, filling the train to capacity. After an unknown amount of time, the electronic prompt sound on the train woke him up. Dear passengers, hello. Terminal. The third old destination has arrived. Please pack your luggage and get off the train in an orderly manner. The old train wishes you a pleasant journey. The joyful electronic female voice echoes inside the carriage, influenced by the developed video and film factors of the Volodics continent, making me unable to believe my own ears. What is the old terminal? No wonder there are no people on the morning train. The special train slowly slowed down and came to a stop. The valves began to deflate, the doors opened, and the passengers on board got off the platform in an orderly manner, carrying their luggage. Zhong Yi followed them down the platform. On the platform, there were 3 or 2 pedestrians, dressed in black formal attire, wearing high hats, and nodding with a smile at Zhong Yi who got off the car. The dilapidated station lacks even a roof, and the platforms are partially shattered. Perhaps only the specialized trains interweaving on these tracks appear intact. This is the initial impression that the old area gives to me. He suddenly remembered the announcement he had just made on the train, the third old place. The man on the platform walked towards Zhong Yi and smiled, saying, "Illegal immigrants. Amazing, get to know the traveler, Lance." The man handed out a business card and stuffed it into Zhong Yi's hand. Without waiting for Zhong Yi to react, he strode into the special train. Passengers glanced at him without curiosity, but just as the man mentioned the traveler, they understood. He held a shiny silver card of unknown material in his hand, with gilded characters printed on it. Traveler, Lance, and a string of numbers below, seemingly indicating contact information. However, his phone still cannot be turned on, so he must be late. Zhou Xingqiang's pickpocket will definitely deduct his salary. Illegal immigrants. Zhong Yi was taken aback for a moment. He remembered that the man seemed to have said these 3 words to him. Entering the station by swiping one's own card, how can one be a stowaway? The train let out a long roar, warning people not to approach. A wave surged past, and the train disappeared into the cracks. Zhong Yi happened to see this scene. I lost it, did I cross over? Having received a good education on the continent of Volaics, I have also read many fantasy novels and am very interested in the adventures in them. I never expected that one day it would be my turn. Although he had also fantasized about time travel, he couldn't help feeling a bit scared when fate chose him. Time travel. Kid, it's just the third old place, a beggar curled up in a corner of the dilapidated station, looking not far away at his beloved password, and explained in a loud voice. Chapter 2. Businessman Kevin. You are listening at novelfull.audio. As the night gradually deepened, Zhong Li struggled to drag 3 safes and slowly walked towards the safe house in the darkness. He hesitated in his footsteps, and some of the mechanisms he had set up outside the safe house were triggered. Someone had come here. Zhong Li is unsure if the safe house has been discovered or if someone is waiting for a rabbit. He quickly hid his things and wanted to slowly touch them back to take a look. He didn't want to throw away any miscellaneous items, and he absolutely couldn't throw away any fire oil. Kid. The voice came from behind Zhong Li, and a middle-aged gentleman dressed neatly and leaning on a cane smiled at him. Merchant. Zhong Li recognized the newcomer and his guard increased a bit. Mr. Kevin, why do you have time to come to me? Zhong Li smiled. Kid, it's not safe to wander outside at night, businessman Kevin joked. Sigh. Zhong Li spread out his hands, pretending to be depressed. What is safe to talk about in this environment? Is that why you don't go back to the outer city and stay in the wasteland? I remember you came out of the outer city and stayed in the wasteland for 6 years. What kind of people are on the wasteland? Kevin continued, sinners, fallen, extremely vicious. Kevin looked at him up and down. Zhong Li's current appearance is indeed not good, with a tattered helmet, clothes shattered into cloth strips, and a smell emanating from his body, making people frown. He looks like a beggar. Watching the merchant Kevin's gaze scrutinizing up and down, Zhong Li couldn't determine his purpose. The merchant was not surprised to know his past, as the methods of the extraordinary were beyond his imagination. There is rarely any intersection between the two, or in other words, the merchant only looks at the benefits above the wasteland. After all, everything else here is worthless except for the benefits. What's Mr. Kevin looking for me for? Zhong Li was the first to ask a question in his heart. I heard you have a lot of cooking oil. Businessman Kevin wore a smile on his face. How did Mr. Kevin know? Zhong Yi was somewhat puzzled. Although the trap outside the safe house was triggered, its location should not have been discovered. His safe house was buried in the ruins, and Zhong Yi also accidentally discovered a cave here. He made some arrangements around it. He just discovered that only a part of the mechanism was touched, indicating that the visitor did not know the specific location of the safe house. We need to change to a safe house, Zhong Yi thought to himself, but we still need to take care of Kevin first. Businessman Kevin directly said he needed his cooking oil, and Zhong Yi understood that he had to hand over a portion. Hee, you have used this thing many times to escape death. People with intentions have already discovered it, but they just can't find your hiding place. Also, these traps were not opened by me. As soon as I arrived, I saw you sneaking around hiding something. Kevin lifted his cane and pointed it somewhere. Zhong Yi's gaze narrowed slightly. That was where he had just hidden the safe. I do have some cooking oil, but what is Mr. Kevin going to exchange for? Zhong Yi asked, wondering how many good things Kevin really has. Of course, it would be best to exchange it with water. Kid, don't think about it. Let me see how many there are first. I want all of them. Businessman Kevin seemed to know what Zhong Yi was thinking. Please wait a moment, Mr. Kevin. Zhong Yi dug out 3 boxes he had hidden and pulled them towards the safe house. Wait a minute, kid, I'm quite interested in your box. Is it for sale or not? Kevin walked up to Zhong Yi and looked at these 3 heavy-looking metal boxes. After all, he has a wide range of knowledge, and there is a great possibility that these boxes contain good things, even a pure source material is possible. No exchange, no exchange. Zhong Yi shook his head. He just wanted to take out the kerosene and send Kevin away. Kevin must be an extraordinary person because he always felt a vague pressure on Zhong Yi. Okay. Upon hearing Zhong Yi's refusal, Kevin was somewhat disappointed, but he did not force it. Anyone can disregard their reputation, he cannot. The scavengers did not guess wrong, he is indeed an extraordinary person. This extraordinary power not only enhances his physical strength, but also gives him some special abilities. Just now, he unconsciously used his ability to influence Zhong Yi's judgment, but he was still rejected. This rejection is not difficult, just a firm will. He cannot compete without a bottom line, as his extraordinary qualities will be drained from his body. Therefore, reputation is a fundamental element of a businessman and also his weakness. Mr. Kevin, please wait a moment. Zhong Yi quickly flashed into the darkness and arrived at the entrance of the safe house with 7 or 8 twists and turns. The decorations here were not touched, and Zhong Yi breathed a sigh of relief. However, he needed to quickly change his residence, as this place would sooner or later be discovered. As Zhong Yi entered the safe house, a smile appeared on Kevin's face. This kid really found a hidden place. Should I sell this news, he thought to himself. Zhong Yi didn't know that Kevin had discovered his safe house. He is currently loading kerosene. There is still half a barrel of kerosene, and he cannot give it all to Kevin. Of course, he still needs to take out some. Kevin personally comes to the door, and this kind of thing is extremely rare in Wasteland. The merchant looked at the small half-barrel of kerosene in front of him, his eyebrows slightly twitching. This reserve exceeded his imagination, and this kid must have left a portion. This kid won't be there. He found an unopened oil tank barrel, he thought to himself. What do you want? Kevin asked, handing over the choice to Zhong Yi himself. Water. Zhong Yi said what he currently lacks the most. Kevin was not surprised. The cracked and pale corners of Zhong Yi's mouth indicated that he had not drunk water for a long time. Last time they traded fruits, Zhong Yi had no choice but to deal with the mutated dog virus, which was deadly without any medicine. Sure, but only 3 bottles, you know, the value of water, the merchant said lightly. Okay. Zhong Yi nodded, and the merchant agreed to his request. He was not surprised because fire, oil, and water were the most scarce resources on the wasteland. Even if they were a little less, he would definitely get water, which is beyond doubt. Kevin drew several lines on the ground with his cane, placed the oil in the center, and a burst of light flickered. The oil disappeared, and 3 bottles of water appeared at the location of the oil. This scene made Zhong Li's eyes skip a beat, searching for the book garden www.zhaosuiyuan.com. This is extraordinary power. Hehe, no need to guess, I am indeed an extraordinary person. The merchant also did not shy away, as this was one of the abilities bestowed upon him by the inscription, the placement formation. The content recorded in this inscription consists of only 2 words. Merchants. Apart from the people who use it, no one knows what the inscription records because no one can understand what these strange patterns mean. The placement formation allows him to obtain trading goods within a certain area with a distance limit, which is only known to Kevin himself. Although it is only a T5 level inscription, no one dares to provoke him on the wasteland. Alright, the transaction is successful. Kevin pointed to the water bottle and gestured for Zhong Yi to go and get it. Do you have anything you want? If you have an equivalent or gold, you can exchange it. The merchant seemed to have completed an order, feeling happy, and continued to face Zhong Yi. Do you have any meat? Zhong Yi asked. He hadn't eaten meat for over a year and had long forgotten what it tasted like. The last time he had trouble with mutant dogs was that he wanted to eat dog meat. This type of dog is contaminated with waste soil, and its temperament has greatly changed. The venom glands are in the gums, and the meat is non-toxic. However, Zhong Yi not only has not been beaten, but also bitten. You can't afford it. The merchant shook his head. Fat, protein, and other high-value items are terrifying. Although water is scarce, it can always be found. Otherwise, how could so many scavengers live in the wasteland, but only a few have actually eaten meat? Okay, I'll come to your small shop next time I need it. Zhong Yi was slightly disappointed. Indeed, he didn't have anything to exchange for meat. But Kevin's words also made him aware that merchant shops sell meat. The premise is that you have items of equal value. Sure, for the sake of this order, I'll give you a 25% discount. Chapter 3. Open Blind Box. You are listening at Novel Full.Audio. Watching the merchant leave, Zhong Yi quickly returned to the underground cave, packed his belongings, and began to move. He also had a safe house near the gathering place of mutated animals, which was a cave that was dangerous but safer. He was once driven here by a pack of mutant dogs and accidentally escaped. Later, he tidied up the interior, dug several air holes inside to allow air to circulate, and opened a sink to prevent acid rain from damaging the cave. Busy until the latter half of the night, Zhong Yi finally transported all his belongings and reinforced the trap in the cave. When someone finds this cave, they will definitely like the gift he prepared, Zhong Yi thought. Clearing away the traces along the way, Zhong Yi carefully drilled into the cave and blocked the exit. The cave entrance was not large, but there was a unique cave inside. People who dare to survive on wasteland may not have much strength, but they have some ability to save their lives. People like Zhong Yi who own several safe houses are often present. After tidying up everything, Zhong Yi lit the oil lamp and the cave suddenly lit up. He couldn't wait to take 2 sips of water, and the cool liquid flowed into his stomach through his throat, making him feel unprecedented comfort. He tightened the bottle caps tightly and placed them on the stone platform. He had to drink this little water slowly, at least until he found a source of water or a resource to replace it. He placed 3 metal boxes in front of him, all made of very sturdy alloys. Zhong Yi knocked with the back of his knife, making a dull sound, very thick. Without the key and password, he had no idea for a moment. He frowned tightly, the back of his knife hitting the box, making a clanging sound, echoing in the cave. Zhong Yi thrust his dagger into the gap, picked up a rusty iron hammer and threw it towards the handle. With a loud bang, the blade sank into it, creating a scene. He pulled out the blade with some heartache. Fortunately, it was not damaged. If he hadn't seen what the secret object looked like before, he would almost certainly be certain that this deep blue dagger was a secret object. If you were a superhero, that would be great. This way, you can activate the ability of the secret object. I believe the dagger will be even sharper. Zhong Yi once thought about collecting inscriptions and source materials, but now he doesn't even know what source materials look like, and the merchant has a copy of inscriptions that he can't afford. To survive on the wasteland, he relied on his physical skills taught by his second uncle, as well as his daily physical exercise. Unfortunately, his nutrition couldn't keep up, and his body looked very thin and small. Continue to secure the position, swing the sledgehammer and smash it, still muttering about 80 bang, the last hammer deeply inserted the dagger into the gap, and the lock core was cut open. He quickly took off the dagger, rubbed it multiple times, polished off its rust, and the deep blue blade looked particularly eye-catching. Zhong Yi hid it in his left forearm, covered by clothing, making it difficult to see clearly from outside. With just a flick of his wrist, he could slide it into his hand. There are several gold bars and 2 bundles of federal coins in the first safe, which are just paper in the wasteland and not even accepted by merchants and small shops. The gold bars can still be useful. Federal currency is the only legal tender on the mainland, and it is used for trading in both outer and inner cities. Of course, gold bars, a hard currency, are popular everywhere. Putting the gold bars and banknotes aside, Zhong Yi carefully took out 2 boxes with a string of federal characters written on them, which he did not recognize. Zhong Yi has never attended school since childhood, and there is no school in the outer city. He only knows how to write the names of his family, which was taught by his father. This is also due to the fact that his father's company is registered in the inner city, so his father can apply for temporary entry into the city. In his spare time from work, Zhong's father consulted with the school teachers about the way to write their names. Opening the box, what catches the eye is a transparent glass bottle body, which is also filled with transparent liquid. Water. Zhong Yi let out a loud cry. This glass bottle is not small, 1 bottle is equivalent to the quantity of 2 bottles traded from the merchant. There is an identical box next to it. Obviously, the contents are the same. Oh, how come there is still a date? Zhong Yi only then noticed that a string of federal characters on the bottle body was followed by a few numbers .193973. Although he doesn't know the federal characters, he knows the federal numbers. There are only a few, but he can't remember. Is this water from 1939? This is water from 48 years ago. Zhong Yi was taken aback by the fact that it must have gone bad after such a long time. What kind of water can be preserved for more than 40 years? He opened the bottle in frustration, and a pungent odor emanated, which indeed went bad. Oh, this is wine. Zhong Yi finally remembered this familiar smell, and Uncle Air often drank alcohol, but it was all of inferior quality. He didn't like this kind of thing, so he didn't smell this smell for 6 years and didn't react for a while. Alcohol is particularly popular in Wasteland, but he doesn't drink alcohol and hasn't paid much attention to the price. I heard it's quite expensive to sell at Kevin's place, so maybe these 2 bottles of wine can be exchanged for something good. The first safe only had these things, a few gold bars, 2 bundles of federal coins, and 2 bottles of wine. Put the wine back into the box, and Zhong Yi shifted his gaze to the second box. It was also a black safe, but it was 1 size smaller than the one just now. There probably wasn't much good inside. Zhong Yi followed suit and continued to swing his hammer, appearing more skilled this time. In just a few strokes, the lock cylinder was cut open. He eagerly opened the box, which contained only a small crystal box, lying alone inside. The inside of the small box is a delicate key, which is a very old-fashioned key, definitely not a safe. The clock is very certain. He picked up the key and realized it was a stone carving key. He went to the book garden www.zhaoshuyuan.com to get it cold, rough, and not a handicraft. He was a bit puzzled. With only a key in such a large box, he didn't know what to open. What the owner of the box thought was better to fill it with bread. With a tilt of his left hand, he stabbed the dagger into the sponge inside the box, hoping that there was still a layer inside. However, the box was scratched and the sponge fluff flew around without noticing the layer. Damn it, just a broken key. He casually threw it aside and looked at the last silver-white box, which was slightly larger than the first one, hoping to open up something good. Zhong Yi prayed in his heart. In just a few clicks, I opened this box, and the contents inside also made Zhong Yi very happy. It's a gun. Inside the box lay a revolver and a bag of bullets. The black gun body flickers with light, indicating that its owner loves it and maintains it well with gun oil. Zhong Yi eagerly picked up the pistol, and the heavy feeling told him that it was a real guy. On the wasteland, there is a hegemon known as the Gun King, who is the most powerful scavenger besides merchants and the sinful person exiled by the Federation. He has a handgun, which no one dares to provoke on the wasteland near Tianyu City. Of course, he also dared not provoke businessman Kevin. Unlike other wasters, he knew that the power of a superhero could not be matched by ordinary firearms, so he showed great respect when he saw Kevin. With this, the chances of surviving in the wasteland are even higher, so it's also worth considering eating dog meat. Obviously, he still remembers the wound on his left hand, but he doesn't know if he remembers which mutant dog it is. Zhong Yi resisted the idea of trying out his gun, using bullets sparingly and not wasting a single one. This would be his biggest trump card. Chapter 4. Hunting. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The sky is still full of stars, and there are only 4 hours in the day in Karame, and 8 hours in the night. And the time of the day is constantly shortening. Zhong Yi once heard that the day and night are the same length, both 6 hours. I don't know when it started, the night became longer, the day became shorter, and the eerie weather at night was also constantly emerging. These are not things that Zhong Yi should think about. He has been busy all day and has gone through a life and death battle, both physically and mentally exhausted. He just wants to take a good rest. Blowing out the fire-extinguishing oil lamp, Zhong Yi and Yi fell asleep. When they woke up again, they were starving. He touched his stomach, which was starting to protest, and took out sausages and bread to fry on an iron pot. Perhaps the dry firewood he collected was not dry enough, and the several air vents in the cave were slow to exhaust, causing a foul atmosphere inside. He was covered in tears from the smoke, and it should have been a little bigger at the time. Regardless of whether the sausages were cooked or not, he quickly disposed of the food, fastened his pistol, and began to go out to scavenge. He wants to hunt a mutant dog back today, test the power of the new weapon, and find a way to retrieve the 2 large safes hidden last night. Thinking of this gave him a headache. Those 2 boxes were really big, otherwise he would have brought them back overnight. Ever since he opened the gun and gold, he has been thinking about the boxes in the abandoned building. The reason why mutant dogs mutate is because the water source on the waste soil has been polluted, and animals also need to drink water. Through generations of evolution, they have adapted to the survival rules of the waste soil and also generated toxic glands to protect themselves. Zhong Yi hid in a haystack, watching several mutant dogs gather together to drink water. Not all of them went to drink water in a swarm, leaving one standing in place to guard the surroundings. Whenever there was a disturbance, he would call on his tribe to flee. Often, the wary mutant dog was a head dog, tall and fat, much more ferocious than the nearby dogs. It slowly walked back and forth around the pack of dogs, baring its mouth and letting its saliva drip onto the ground, intimidating other creatures. Shoo! An arrow shot from a corner not far away, straight into the little dog's neck. The little dog collapsed into the water, splashed twice and then stopped moving. The black water surface was stained with dark blood. This incident caused animosity among the dogs, and even the head dog did not expect anyone to set such a distance to kill its tribe members. It roared angrily, leading its people towards the direction of the arrows. "Damn it, it's crooked," and cursed inwardly as he watched the crossbow arrow shoot into the little dog. He originally aimed at the head dog, which was large and had a lot of meat, but it was more alert and made it dodge. Watching the head dog chasing towards him with a group of mutant dogs, and didn't panic and mysteriously took out a small bottle filled with liquid from his bag. Remove the remaining arrows and immerse them one by one in the liquid. Then, take out a torch and blow, a small flame bursts up, igniting the arrows. Then, 3 arrows shot and killed 3 mutant dogs, and the fire oil carried by the arrows still adhered to their fur. In no time, a raging fire broke out. The head dog watched as the tribe struggled and roared in the flames, with a hint of fear flashing in its eyes. It reluctantly barked back a few times and then led the pack of dogs to retreat. And watched as the head dog led the tribe to retreat, and couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief in his heart. He didn't have many arrows, and if he fought hard, he would definitely not be able to defeat them. But businessman Kevin, while selling his arrows, also told him that the mutant dog pack in this wilderness had been burned by a great fire, and he had a natural fear of flames in his heart. So he bought another small bottle of kerosene, which cost him a lot of savings. The kerosene is really too expensive. However, the merchant's information was not given in vain. And needs to bring back 5 pounds of dog meat and hand it over to him. He wants to eat dog meat hot pot and doesn't want to do it himself. This is Kevin's original words, stemming from his fear of Kevin, and they accepted the merchant's conditions. Fortunately, the arrow was only soaked in oil and didn't burn fiercely enough. He quickly extinguished the fire with soil, took out the arrow, wiped off the blood stains, and retrieved the arrow bag. Aang is not a hunting mutant anymore. He picked up his internal organs, peeled off his fur, and in no time, 3 clean dog meat were placed on the ground. He carefully cut off the most tender part and also put 2 dog legs on it. He packed them in oil paper and stuffed them into a small bag behind him. This is something for the merchant, and if it's more exquisite, it's definitely right. He is aware of the identity of the extraordinary merchant, as he has seen more than once the merchant use the placing formation to trade with him, as he possesses a powerful crossbow. The merchant said that being lazy to take action is being lazy to take action. If 2 dog legs can connect with the merchant's thread, perhaps he can also get an ownerless imprint. He has one of his biggest secrets, and no one knows. He hides a source material, although it is not the purest source material, it is still the source material. In this wasteland, you may have heard or seen the wonders of secrets, or know that a merchant shop is selling an inscription. But who has seen the source material? This is a federal strategic resource. In addition to the supernatural law stipulating that specific superbeings can hold it, if any lost source material is secretly hidden, the Department of Justice will dispatch law enforcement teams to retrieve it, even if it is from abandoned soil. He has been coveting the inscription in the merchant's shop for a long time and has never dared to take action. Because he knew that many fugitives had thoughts about that inscription, but those who dared to act disappeared, except for the Gun King. The reason why Gun King Daozo respects Kevin very much is because his brother is also a superhero who lives in the outer city, so Kevin did not kill him. Daozo was exiled by the federal government to the wasteland to fend for himself, and that pistol was sent by his brother. Aang suffered several losses under the Gun King's command, and he dared not fight back, mostly breaking his teeth and swallowing them. Shoo! Aang squinted his eyes and shot an arrow towards a weed several tens of meters away. While Eng raised his hand, Zhong Yi felt uncomfortable looking for the Shuyuan website www.zhaoshuyuan.com. Even though he was preparing to dodge, he was still shot through his left shoulder. Aang watched the thin figure emerge from the weeds and laughed heartily. "Kid, if you want to play this game, you're a bit too young." He obviously mistook Zhong Yi for a yellow sparrow. Coincidentally, Zhong Yi had this idea. If it weren't for Ng facing him while dealing with his organs, he would have been ready to shoot. Hunters who play with crossbows and arrows have very keen ears. They stay in the grass and dare not move, afraid of being discovered, and then are hit by an arrow. As Ng opened his backpack and stuffed the oiled paper bag, Zhong Yi took out his revolver and opened the safety. Despite the small noise, Ng still caught him. However, Zhong Yi did not answer his question and raised his hand to shoot Eng. Bang! The loud gunfire echoed on this wasteland, startling many scavengers to look towards Zhong Yi. "Daozhua is hunting, run quickly, don't be killed by mistake." Someone shouted, and the scavenger team in groups of 3 or 2 quickly escaped from the wilderness. I missed the shot. Zhong Yi was clearly aiming at Ng's head, but the bullet hit his shoulder, causing a blood spray. "How are you?" Ng looked incredulously at the dark cave entrance. He couldn't believe that anyone else besides Dozo had this kind of weapon. But Zhong Yi didn't want to hear his last words and pulled the trigger one after another. Bang! 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 3 bullets, one fired off target, one went into Ng's left eye, and the other hit his chest. The recoil of the pistol firing made Zhong Li's arm numb. He quickly searched Ng's body and poured kerosene onto him, igniting it. The raging fire burned away all traces. Chapter 5. Key Changes. You are listening at Novel Full.Audio. The wound on his left shoulder is still bleeding, and the blood has almost soaked half of Zhong Li's body. He dare not easily remove the arrow. He does not have a hemostatic injection, and the only disinfectant is still in the cave. This time when he went hunting, he only brought a dagger and a revolver, not even gunpowder, and the pistol did not disappoint him, successfully helping him turn the tide of the battle. The gunshots echoed through the wilderness, and Zhong Yi only wanted to quickly return to the cave, otherwise he would definitely be discovered. With his current state, even if he fired a few more shots, his safety could not be guaranteed. "Kid, did you kill Eng?" The middle-aged businessman in front of Zhong Yi leaned on his cane and couldn't believe it. But he knew the arrow on Zhong Li's shoulder, which Ng had purchased from him. "Mr. Kevin, do you have any hemostatic agents?" "I'll trade dog meat for you." Zhong Yi stopped stumbling and opened Ng's backpack, saying to Kevin. No, that bag is already mine. You need to pay some equivalent, or you can tell me how you killed Ng and give me a free hemostatic." Kevin pointed to the backpack that was thrown on the ground and said. "Ng bought arrows from me this morning, and I gave him a bottle of hot oil. I need him to help me find a few pounds of dog meat to cook hot pot. Although you killed him, the contents of this bag are not yours." Upon hearing these words, Zhong Yi quickly threw out his crossbow. Although he was a bit reluctant, he couldn't control so much anymore. He already felt his eyes were a bit loose, and he might not be able to hold on until he received the potion. As for telling Kevin how he killed Ng, this is the least to consider. A pistol is his biggest trump card, and he won't reveal it unless absolutely necessary. The merchant also kept his promise and placed the crossbow into the drawn circle, causing a dazzling light to flash through. A dark red potion appeared in the center of the formation. Kevin handed the injection to Zhong Yi and said to him, "This is a hematopoietic potion. That crossbow is worth a good price. I'll give you another hemostatic powder as a fair deal." As he spoke, he took out a bag of white medicinal powder from his pocket and stuffed it into Zhong Li's hand. "It's a bit worse than a hemostatic, but the amount is large. You can use it next time," Kevin chuckled. This kid has been targeted by people for a long time, but if Zhong Yi can enter the wasteland and survive for 6 years at the age of 10, there must be some tricks involved. It is appropriate for him to offer some benefits. If Zhong Yi can survive successfully, there is also a possibility of cooperation between them, Kevin thought to himself. "Oh, by the way, I said I'll give you a discount yesterday. Can I help you pick up the arrow for free?" Speaking, the merchant lightly tapped the clock off his shoulder with his cane, shaking the sharp arrow out without causing any secondary damage to the wound. As Kevin took action, Zhong Yi felt a surge of pressure and helped him lock his shoulder muscles. It seemed like a gentle move, not only removing the sharp arrow, but also numbing half of his body. The merchant quickly took the hemostatic powder from Zhong Li's hand and sprinkled it on his wound. The blood slowly solidified and formed large blood scabs. The blood no longer flowed, but Zhong Li felt a burning pain in the wound. He had known he needed a hemostatic needle, which was fast and convenient to administer. However, a large amount of blood was lost, and he had to find a way to make up for it later. It has to be said that businessmen do business without deceit, even considering hematopoietic injections. I'll wait for you to go back and get the hematopoietic needle. After getting it, I feel a strong sense of fatigue. If you don't listen to advice and fall asleep on this wasteland, it's not my fault. Kevin stuffed the paper bag back into Zhong Li's hand. By the way, I've helped you so much, still don't tell me how to kill Eng. The merchant began playing emotional cards, not only playing a casual move on Zhong Li, but also wanting to know what Zhong Li's bottom card was. The scavenger with a head and face on this wasteland knows more or less about his trump card, just like a dojo. Others think his trump card is his gun, but the merchant knows that the Gun King has a superpower brother, as well as the trump cards of the wandering three brothers, and so on. Now Zhong Li suddenly killed Eng, the lone wolf, which made him a little curious. However, Zhong Li was not defeated by the emotional card. He had long distrusted anyone above the wasteland, he only believed in the dagger in his hand, and now he has an extra gun. Kevin's attitude towards himself is somewhat abnormal. Usually, he treats everyone equally, even the gunslinger doesn't take any care of him, let alone his unattractive appearance. Zhong Li's guard against him has strengthened a bit. He immediately said, "Does Mr. Kevin have anything he needs?" He doesn't know what Kevin is staring at, it's probably just hot oil, he doesn't have much inventory left. "Oh, I really need the source material, inscriptions, and secrets. Do you have them?" Kevin smiled. Zhong Li pursed his lips and heard that Eng had a source of suspicions. He searched Eng's body all over but couldn't find it. It was possible that he had left it in a safe room and anyone had nothing to do but bring a piece of gold outside and wander around. He still needed something like Mingchen. If he could have it, how could he possibly take it out? As for the secret item, he really had one. He instinctively pulled his left sleeve wrist at Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com, where there was a dagger hidden, let alone take it out. Kevin didn't pay much attention to Zhong Li's small movements. It's possible that the medicinal effect might have made Zhong Li feel uncomfortable. He said these three things to entertain Zhong Li, and he didn't even have any secrets, let alone Zhong Li. But he didn't know that Zhong Li really had one thing. Without too much entanglement, Zhong Li did not ask why Kevin came to this wilderness, and the two parted ways. Zhong Li began to run quickly towards the cave, while businessman Kevin came to a spot of ash and carefully examined it. Although Zhong Li wiped away a large number of on-site traces, he still left some clues. Kevin used his cane to pick out a few brass bullets from the ashes. A revolver. Is it from those three boxes? Kevin thought of the three safes that Zhong Li had brought back yesterday. He was still trying to trade them, but Zhong Li refused. He didn't expect that he would actually receive a good item. In that case, it's not impossible to invite him to cooperate. Zhong Li didn't know that Kevin had returned to the scene to find the bullet and determined that he had the gun in hand. He quickly burrowed into the cave, sealed the entrance, took off his clothes soaked in blood, threw them aside, took out the hematopoietic potion, stabbed it towards his shoulder, and slowly injected the dark red reagent into his body. Zhong Li felt his eyelids getting heavier and heavier, so he lay down on the stone platform and fell asleep. The function of hematopoietic drugs is indeed powerful. The wound on Zhong Li's shoulder began to ooze blood again, flowing on the stone platform. When the stone-carved key thrown in the corner of the stone platform touched the blood, a glimmer of light flickered, instantly transforming into a stream of light that shot into Zhong Li's brain. Zhong Li, who was lying on the stone platform, had a dream of becoming a superhero. Chapter 6. Inscriptions. You are listening at Novel Full.Audio. On the boundless sea, black waves beat against the beach, and schools of fish swam in the water. Zhong Li looked down on all of this. His transparent body was illuminated by the sunset at the edge of the sky, shining with golden light. He noticed an old man on the water, floating in a small boat with a child, slowly drifting into a quiet sea. The distance was too far, and Zhong Li couldn't see clearly what they were daring to do. However, the old man seemed to look up in his direction and then disappeared into a stream of light into the sky. Zhong Li was a bit confused. He felt tired after getting a shot of medicine and then fell asleep. How did he get to this haunted place? And I am also a transparent person. Schools of fish gathered at Zhong Li's feet on the vast sea, and the dark and deep sea shimmered with scales. The fish jumped out of the water one after another, colliding with the transparent figures in the sky before falling onto the surface. The school of fish spit out bubbles, floating in the air, slowly merging, condensing, and converging into the shape of a key. This is. Zhong Li thought of the stone key he threw on the stone platform at random, and they were exactly the same. Is it the key that caused it? The seawater of the secret silver sea converges into thin lines, connecting the keys as if injecting energy into them. The key was spinning slowly in the air, waiting for the thin threads to dissipate. The key slowly approached Zhong Li and disappeared from view on his forehead. An additional stream of information emerged in Zhong Li's mind: the sea of secret silver, the road to T0 in his mind. Countless thin lines outlined a unique magic formation, with bright silver liquid injected into it. The key slowly floated in the center of the formation, absorbing the silver liquid. With a soft thud, the magic formation dissipated, the stone-carved key collapsed, and Zhong Li's brain went dizzy. He opened his eyes again, still lying on the stone platform. The wound on the left shoulder has healed and is bright red in color, without any signs of excessive bleeding. The merchant's potion is still very effective. Oh, Zhong Li felt as if he was holding something in his right hand. When he opened it, it turned out to be a square object with complex inscriptions outlined on it. In the center, he could vaguely recognize the shape of a key. Zhong Li repeatedly looked at the object in his hand, which reminded him of a dream he had just had. Schools of fish, deep and wide water, and the last faint sound. Is this a scar? Zhong Li has never eaten pork and has seen mutant pigs run around. He also understood that the inscriptions had different shapes, but their surfaces were all engraved with complex patterns. Thinking of this, he began to search for the key he had discarded on the stone platform. However, even after searching the entire cave, I couldn't find any trace of the stone-carved key. However, there is a key imprint left by blood in the upper right corner of the stone platform, indicating that it is indeed here, but it is missing. He placed the inscription in front of him and carefully examined it. No matter how he observed it, he could not distinguish the true meaning of the inscription painted on it. However, with an inscription, the next step is to obtain a source material to melt the inscription, and then mark the awakening ceremony to become a superhero. The strange formation in his mind is becoming clearer and clearer, which should be the awakening formation. Zhong Li recalled what had happened in his dream. Based on the feedback from the key, the place he entered was called the Sea of Secret Silver, but he didn't know exactly where it was. The oil lamp made a hissing sound, calling back his thoughts and reminding Zhong Li to quickly add oil. The only useful information I remember in my heart is the T0 journey, but what does T0 represent? Why is it said that this is a road and where does it lead to? Zhong Li had many doubts in his heart, but the top priority now was to find a source material. Only after he gained extraordinary power can he understand the information recorded in the inscription. He remembered that the enemy he killed today seemed to be the lone wolf Eng, who, with his superb arrow technique, was also a thorny presence in this wasteland. Some people say he once obtained a source of evidence. Zhong Yi searched for the stone corpse and found nothing. If he could find Ang's residence, he should be able to find that source of evidence. Chapter 7. One Day Off. You are listening at novel full.audio. Tired. I'm going to be lazy. Chapter 8. One Day Off. You are listening at novel full.audio. Taking another leave. Leave. You are listening at novel full.audio. Continuing to take leave.